This might be a touchy subject, but this is something that I want to explore because I feel like it pervades much of who we eventually become as adults, eventually as parents, and who we are right now. We're all shaped by the psychological climate in our households. And this is a real thing because as soon as you leave home and you stay somewhere else, you stay with your friends or whatever the case may be, and then you come back home, you realize that there is a certain thing such as a psychological climate because it is made by the individuals that are present in your household. Imagine the analogy of a plant. A plant grows up in a specific climate, in a specific environment. If it suits that climate and environment, it grows beautifully. It flowers almost. But if the soil is not right, if the climate is foreign, then the plant withers. And this is the kind of perspective that I've taken on with regards to what this household climate is like, psychological household climate is like. And with regards to overcoming your parents create this. Your parents create this sort of climate in your household with their psychodynamic, with how they engage with each other and with you, and as a family unit. What are the conditions of your family? They create the psychological environment in which you grow as a child. And a lot of what's out there on the internet is mainly towards Western audiences. They're mainly towards Western households where the base culturally and their parenting style and what they fear and what their goals are fundamentally different than that of the Indian context. There are certain things that are prevalent in the Indian context that are not prevalent in the West. And that is that beating is acceptable, for example. Beating is acceptable. The enforcement of rules are acceptable. There's a massive power difference between you and the parent. There is a rigid mold on who you're supposed to become in this world. There is taunting that is involved. There is lying that is involved. There's a lot of fear and survival based thinking that is involved. And if you're a woman, then you have much more additional pressures. You can almost see that you are being treated differently in your household than that of your male counterparts in the family. The base of which of this cultural conditioning is a perpetuation of fear and the implementation of roles upon people, of hierarchical roles upon people. We have this strange heuristic that is almost not questioned. Respect your elders, regardless of what they do, say, and are. And I think the more older I become, the more I realize, oh my God, adults do not have a clue. They live their lives. It depends on their awakening psychologically. Are they relying on their own natural intelligence? Are they open? Are they exposed to the world, or are they dying in old rules, in old rules, decayed, still almost about to collapse? They're still holding on to that. Who is an adult in that case? I think overcoming our parents is not to say that we're not grateful for what they've done. It's not to say that we ignore the sacrifice that they have committed, to give us a certain kind of lifestyle. Sacrifice is a very important thing. It is not to ignore that, but it is to risk connection for the first time with your parents. Risk connection with yourself and your parents. Because if you're not connected to the source, you're always going to be withering. Like I use that plant analogy. You have to return, you have to be at peace with your source. And I think growing up in an Indian household makes it so much more difficult to do that, to actually see each other for who they are. Not to mention the other thing, the physical violence that is committed upon a child, the enforcement of unachievable expectations on each child, the comparisons that is made between you and another kid, the enforcement of a specific mold as to who you should become. You can only be an engineer, you can only be a doctor, you can only be successful You can only be a good student. You must get, like all your grades sorted out. You must be this. You have no other identity other than what you will be, economically in this world, what you'll be other than a profession that can be sold to other parents. There is this toxic nature of living their unlived life through their kids and then using the kids to sell the idea to another kid. Sell the idea to another parent, to talk about it, to gossip among which kid is better, which kid is this. There's a lot of that because we're almost used as instruments, as displays to other people as to what we should be like and what we should achieve. And when we don't, there is even more pressure coming from the society through our parents. To overcome your parents means to finally overcome your conditioning as to who you are. Overcome meaning to be at peace with it, to overcome, not to exceed, but to overcome this. You're already dropped down, you need to come up to a stage. To overcome your parents means to find your individuality, means to find a ground where you can be in. I grew up in this kind of household. A very good household, by the way. But I grew up with these conditions that I needed to be someone, that I needed to be like a specific someone, or there was a lot of punishment that was involved. And this is mainly regarding my education. I had to be an engineer, but I didn't. Finally, I didn't. But that's what I had to be. That was what was envisioned upon me. And a lot of sacrifice was put towards that end, which I couldn't uplift, I couldn't do anything about. I think somewhere in my early teens, I became aware that they have a version of me that I do not share. They have a version of me that is somewhat outdated because what I realized I was doing was lying about everything. I learned how to lie and I learned how to hide. I learned how to hide so that I wouldn't be caught as the real me. I wouldn't be discovered as to who I am. I would be, I would have to go out and probably tell them that I went elsewhere. I had to pretend like I had no romantic crushes in my life, that women were a completely different species, that all Indians are my brothers and sisters. I had to lie a lot. And I think that lying develops into this whole fantasy self that they have, that you both agree to keep in order to never actually meet each other. I think parents are just as scared to be seen as vulnerable and as broken people. Growing up in this condition of just, lying continuously as to who I am, I think just gave me the tools and abilities to do that for the rest of my life, elsewhere. If from the very source I'm hiding, imagine for the rest of the world, among friends, among romantic relationships where I have the possibility to actually feel love as it is, coming into my heart instead of, performing for somebody for love. Because that is what it entails. Sometimes we have to perform heavily to actually receive a kind of love that we'd like. So having this, the condition that I grew up in, I realize, my God, like I'll never be known by them. I used to have this fantasy that, when I'm much older, when I'm much, much older, when I'm 30, when I'm 40, I will sit my parents down and tell them about my entire life. Because I cannot do it right now. Because they simply will not accept. Because I had learned that that's not something that I can do, that I'd be punished. But I forgot that I grew up. And this is basically how to overcome your parents. It is to start by telling the truth. It is to start telling the truth as to the basic nature of who you are. About the facts of your life, slowly and carefully, not abruptly, not resentfully, but start to introduce yourself, start to introduce certain truths about who you are and stop lying. And then, secondly, to realize that they are just like you. They're just beyond the role that you're projected as a father, as a mother. When you take that aside and you look at them, they're just another man. They're just another man. They're just another woman. There are millions of men and women walking down the street that could be somebody's parents. But for you, they're just as ordinary. They're just ordinary people. And that's what they are. They are that. They had a life before you. They lived before you. They have a story before you. And when you only see them as parents, you'll never see that because you're enforcing the same role that they enforce upon you. You're my child, and you are my parent, and then we both just sort of play these roles. To see them beyond the roles means to liberate not just them, it also liberates you. It liberates everyone. It liberates you from, playing up this, okay, I'm a child, I will lie and be cowardly towards y'all, and I will just, have this namesake fake respect. And them to constantly be in this mode of correction, constantly be in this mode of discipline, constantly be in this mode of parenting you. When you see them beyond that, and when you really, it's not a namesake intellectual sleight of hand, but you live it as a perception, you will see your parents and they will see you. There'll be a certain flowering of respect that can finally come about. And when you use truth as your vehicle to do that, then you will really have a relationship and you can face the consequences, be it yelling, be it screaming, be it correction, being whatever it is. You will actually, it'll be a real thing. And it won't hurt as much because obviously scolding, yelling, all the negative consequences, they've been trained in our brain to be such a big lightning strike towards us. There's so much emotional weight associated with that, which is unnecessary. It's unnecessary when you look at them like people. You don't need to associate that much weight, and you'll be much more stronger and much more confident as a human being. I think overcoming your parents, you'll finally figure out, okay, they're just like me. Broken individuals, hurt individuals. That's a possibility where true love can arise. A certain love. You parent them when they parent you. There's a certain parenting on both sides. There is a certain freedom from both sides. You will be free. They'll be free. They can finally talk to you. They can finally know you. You can finally know them. And there you will what you have projected outside to the world, what you have projected onto authority, to parents, your your sense of freedom, your sense of control in your life will finally come back to you because you're taking back your projections and you're giving it back to yourself. You will find in yourself new forms of courage that will come out of nowhere. You have an internal parent and an internal child, an internal mother or father, whatever. And this is the path through which you can find an existence in the world where you don't need to hide as much as you do. And this is why this is important.